You're welcome along to the Maroon and White pod. We're here this evening to look back on the senior football semi-finals, the senior football relegation final, as well as the intermediate action, which we also had the intermediate quarterfinals. That's down to four teams now, and the intermediate relegation final too. If we get in, I suppose I kind of have to get into Corofin Saltill straight away because it was the big game we're all looking forward to. I'm joined this evening by Donal Fátharta and Sean Denvir to look back on the action. Donal, we were looking at this game last week, a lot of excitement. People were tipping Saltaire from the outset to win this county title, and we thought this was going to go down to the wire, but it did anything but go down to the wire.
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. It was disappointing, I suppose, from a Salt Hill perspective. But on reflection, there's probably no surprise. You know what I mean? The juggernaut that is Corofin. I suppose the only surprise is the way they kind of dismantled Salt Hill with ease, and that they had no response to it. But look, it was typical Corofin. They seem to be timing the run as usual around this time. People are talking about second and third gears. I think these guys are around a long time. They know what they're at, and the format, the way it is at the minute, probably suits them better. They can, it's not as long as it was a couple of years ago, so they can time it a little bit better. It's a little bit shorter and sharper. Maybe that suits them. I don't know, but Saltill will be disappointed with the performance. I'd say, and Finian will definitely. But it's a young side. We were just chatting there off air. There's a lot of senior guys there, but bar, I suppose John and Robbie are the only really established guys that are there. The other guys are, they're on the way, hopefully. So, compare that with, the quality that Corofin have. Um, there's probably no surprise that Corofin would win the game, but just the way it happened, and I suppose the disappointing start that Salthill had. I thought they gave away frees early. They made it a little bit easy for them at the start. They gave away kind of rash frees to kind of settle Corofin into the game, and from then on they kind of settled and controlled it and all that sort of stuff. So disappointing, yeah, from a neutral's perspective that they weren't given I suppose more of a test, but probably on reflection, maybe, there was probably they were firm favourites going into the game.
Sean, just on it, if we talk about Saltaire first before we get into Kervin, looking back on the game, obviously the game was Sunday, we're recording now on Tuesday evening. Did Saltaire get their tactics 100% wrong?
Well, look, when you look at the final score line, scoring 5 points is not going to win you. Never mind the county championship, but to get there and to get to the latter stages and to those county finals, get that medal, you really need to be putting up the higher scores, and that's what Corofin have been doing. And I know Gaelic football probably is in a strange place at the moment, with people looking at the new rules coming in and even testing it out this coming Friday. Um, Again, that it's gone so tactical based, and once you go into a game like that and it's not going, is there a plan B? Or if it's not working out, everything that you worked on in the training and in the past few weeks. So again, Corofin, as Donal said there, they've been along around a long time, and they know how to time their run, and they're just building up now. And again, what Paul Till will be most disappointed with, with the caliber of players that they have, probably just going tamely out, and not getting more than 5 points in a championship semi-final. You'd be expecting more, and I'm sure the management and the players themselves, they didn't expect that, they didn't want it, and they probably have a lot to look back on for the following year. But they're a young team, lads, other lads coming through. But yeah, I think they'd be disappointed that maybe when Plan A wasn't working, that the players weren't able to adapt quick enough during the game.
Did they just go too conservative, Sean? Because when you looked at its stages, there was obviously a system there, and it just didn't make sense when they dropped off that they didn't go and put contact on Curfin when they get to the 45, because we all know they do have the long range shooters to tap the points over the bar, and even with the breeze, shooting from the 45 isn't that hard as it would be shooting against the breeze.
Yeah, probably what you want to do against Corofin is try to take that control off them, because they're probably one of the best club teams, not only in Galway, but probably in Ireland for the last few years, and especially in the last decade, in control and possession, doing the right thing. It's all what I always was impressed with Corofin is every player is almost at an elite county level of decision making. They give the kick pass in when it's needed, but they also can use the hand pass. And really, I was always blown away with their decision making during, and especially in the latter stages of championship. And probably, you want to try to take that control off them, and did Saltill show them a bit too much respect in regards to that. It is hard, to change tactics when you've been working on certain things during the year, and they didn't go a million miles off what they were doing during the whole year. But again, to try to take that control off Corofin, and then bring them to the last 15-20 minutes of a bit of chaos. I don't think Corofin sometimes like that chaos during games, and any game I've seen them lose in the last few years, they've been teams have taken that control off them. So again, maybe looking back, maybe showing a small bit too much respect, dropping off. But again, that'll be my opinion. Anyways, if you want to give take Corofin down the stretch, you really need to take that control off them, because they have some of the 1 to 15 and even 1 to 20. They have some of the best ballers, skillful players that they can bring on also. And if you're not putting any pressure on them, they're going to have a field day. So I think looking back on that they would have preferred to maybe add a bit more aggression further up the field.
Yeah, because it did feel like there were two incidents in the first half, Donal. Obviously, the way Sawtill set up was to really contain Corofin. They won the toss. They opted to go against the breeze on Sunday, but there's two instances. John Maigh gets a ball, he's driving forward, he kicks it, they lose it. Tomo gets a ball, he tries to play it to Rob, they lose it. It's almost when you're playing that tactics, there has to be a sense too when you're against the breeze that you do have to just go and mind that ball.
Yeah, look, tactics and all that are fair enough, but just little things like that didn't work out for Salter the last day. Tactically, it was very, very well, I thought it was, they set out to contain, obviously, and it's very difficult to do that. And even the mindset of that can, I suppose, especially against a Corofin, means you might drop that extra little bit back because of the fear factor of who they are and the quality that they can have. So I think that kind of might have seeped in, you know what I mean? And it's easy to say get contact out further out and stuff like that, but you need to have the confidence to do that. And just on the day they didn't. And we all know what you need to do to beat Corofin. You need to get in their faces. You need to slow them down. You need to get your matchups right. And kind of get someone on Sicey and trying to quieten him and this sort of like Finian and Sean and the boys, Norman and those guys, they would have done that and talked about that. But the quality of Corofin shone through, and I thought they got a playing with the wind would have suited them at the start to get a foothold in the game and stuff like that. In hindsight, would you go the other way? If you won the toss, I don't know. Look at this. There's small things there, but definitely on the day you need a lot of stuff to go right. And as you mentioned there, Paul, they gave the ball away and I carried it into the tackle a couple of times going forward. Stuff like that, and that seeps the energy out of you. And they seemed to, the energy went very, very quickly. And again, just at the beginning, I thought we talk about contact and stuff like that. There was a few rash challenges in kickable positions that settled, Corofin down themselves, and they just drove on from that. So you need to get a good start. You need to stay with them, stay in the game, all that sort of stuff. So it just didn't happen. You know what I mean? Like I hope, Saltill aren't too deflated with the performance, because it's a learning curve, and you know what I mean. They'll, hopefully they will. I know they will be back and all that sort of stuff. So I think there's a county title. I mentioned it before in these guys, in the next 4 to 5 years. But as I mentioned there, they're not easily won. So they need to learn. They need to go back. They need to have the confidence and learn from that and try and improve, going forward. But on the day, just little things. But tactically, I suppose, you live and die by the sword. You can go either way with the window against it and stuff like that. So they didn't play well. It's as simple as that. They stood off probably when they should have pushed up. They carried the ball in the tackle when they should have let it go, stuff like that. But that happens in every game. But against Corofin, you really get punished, and they can really punish you. And Saltill got punished the last day, you know what I mean, on the scoreline. And during the game, in the control that they had. So look at they're a hard team to play against at the best of times, but if you give them a foothold in the game, it's very difficult to claw them back.
Donal, you mentioned their confidence to push up and get contact on, but is there a reason maybe why Sawtill didn't have that confidence? Because I was listening to it during the commentary, and the stat was obviously pulled out that Sawtill haven't beaten Corofin in the championship for 20 years.
Yeah, but possibly. But from looking from the outside and from involved in teams, sometimes you can, when they say you give a team too much respect and stuff like that, that can seep into guys, maybe, you know what I mean, stuff like that. And, there's a fear, like, I suppose, panel-wise, Corofin have a better panel than Salthill. We forget about that. Overall, pound for pound, they have. Even, you know what I mean, the quality that they have. So we can look into small little things like that. Of course, from a Salthill's perspective, definitely I thought they did drop a little bit too much, especially with, with the wind and stuff like that. So they gave them that extra time. But again, that's not easy to push out, not easy to crowd it out on guys. But yeah, it could seep into Paul. There's little things like that seep into, there's nerves and stuff like that. And these guys in Corofin have been around a long time. And if you look through the Corofin, the amount of county medals and All Ireland medals in that, you know what I mean, panel, and guys coming off the bench who are fantastic players who probably would be playing on the Salthill team. So we have to look at that as well. There's a lot of quality there, and they got a foothold in the game. And you know what I mean? And it was one game. If they played in 2 weeks' time, it could be different. It could be a lot closer. So it was one game, and look at the bad news for Salthill is the end of the championship for them. So look at there's learnings in it, and you have to kind of keep an eye on Corofin and watch and learn from them for next year as well. I'm sure they'll do that. But look at definitely if they had it back, they would probably get closer to them, try and push up. And I'm sure that was spoken about, and I suppose that was part of the plan. It's every team's plan is to be in guys' faces and put them under as much pressure as you can. But it's easily said, not easily done. And the width that Corofin always keep. Sean mentioned it there, you know what I mean? And the foot passes that they, you know what I mean? It really opens teams. Their diagonal passing, it opens teams up, you know what I mean? So look at they were in charge the last day, simple as that, and they would have hard bet in the final now, most definitely.
On Corofin, Sean, there was question marks maybe at the start of the year where they're going as well as previous years. Maybe we've seen one or two vulnerabilities, and maybe idiots like me doubted them in my power rankings by not putting them first, and I had to kind of bite my tongue when I seen it because I really didn't see it coming. But when they put in a performance like that, there's a reason why they still are reigning county champions and why they're going to be favourites now to win Frank Fox again.
Absolutely, and probably it's when people talk about this Corofin team, they don't hold them in the highest, not the high regard they were with the teams that won the All Irelands in the few years that have gone past. But still, you look at the facts. I think this is their 10th county final in 12 years. There's some teams there that are trying to achieve just one. Never mind 10 in 12 years, and a lot of those players have played county semi-finals, a lot of county finals experience. And then you have the likes of, Gary Sice, there's experience, and then there's Gary Sice that can kind of drive lads on. And again, they seem to have that, what Corofin, they can time their performances also. And even when they're still always, in league finals, league semi-finals, even when they don't feel like they're going too well. So again, with Corofin, probably they've set such a high standard for themselves over the last decade that even when they're doing so well now and, winning games, again, what it feels like sometimes in third or fourth gear, they're still probably harshly judged of where they're at. And I'm sure this Corofin team now, they won't be looking past Cuilinn, but they want to get back in an All-Ireland series and an All-Ireland. They want to get back to Croke Park. And I'm sure this team feels like that they're good enough for it. And then you have the newer lads coming through. They probably want to push on and get to where Corofin team of the last few years were. So again, they've set their own standards, and they'd probably they'd say it themselves that they want to have those high standards. You have young players coming through. They've set a culture for the last 10 years, and any club team in Ireland would would, love to have that culture coming in, new players always being driven on. You can't rest on your laurels. Every player that comes probably at the start of the year, if you're not fit enough, strong enough, or playing well enough, or not showing the commitment, there's another lad that's just as talented. And that's probably what other, teams around the country, they're not as spoiled like that. That they can, pick and choose. But definitely with Corofin, I'm sure, they'll be targeting Mike Cullen now. And it's going to be a fascinating game. Really looking forward to it. Mike Cullen again in a similar way, probably, looking at injuries wise, they'll want to clear up, but they're beating what's in front of them. And probably not as convincingly as Corofin, but it's going to be fascinating. I think this is the one that Mike Cullen will really want. And that's the county medal also that they'll want to, take a scalp like Corofin in a county final.
One moment, Sean, that set the tone. Dylan Wall turns over Evan Wynn coming out with the ball in the first half, and it just showed Corofin's hunger straight away in the first half. And it showed probably Sawtill's difficulty when they were trying to get Sweeney and O'Flaherty and Wynn and these players onto the ball, that they weren't going to get out as easy, and Corofin were going to try and stop them high up the field.
And that's the thing, yeah. And Donal will say the same thing. You can talk about tactics all day long, but what really feeds, from my own experience playing, what really feeds through a team is a tackle like that. It's not just a tackle that is on the tackle count, but it's really pushes everyone on. They want to get the next tackle. It puts the other team on the back foot, and then it gets in the head of the team that it happens to. That maybe the next lad didn't want to give away the ball, so he doesn't go into the contact. They get more cagey. So the positive effect of something like that really does run through a team. And then it can have the opposite effect on the other team. So again, that was a huge moment. And as you alluded to earlier, add that to the balls given away, add that to the little things that kept happening, and the small little battles during that game, the tackles that were made, the lines that were broken, everything fed into the energy of Corofin while it took sapped energy away. So they were winning those little battles. And sometimes, I don't know, we talked about tactics there, but it's 15 battles on a pitch. And if you're comparing every battle there, you had Corofin winning hands down. And, football can be a simple game sometimes. Shake the hand with your man, win that battle. You have 10, 11, 12 lads doing that. It brings you a long way. So again, yeah, that was a huge moment in the game, and they definitely pushed on, and it pushed the whole team on.
Donal, there'll be a lot of talk about all the county players that have come back from Corofin. We've actually just seemed to lost Donal there, but Sean, there's obviously a lot of talk about the county players, but one player this year has probably been the player of the club championship so far for me has been Conor Cunningham. Defensively, holding it really well together at 6, but even going forward, like he's given Corofin a lot at 6.
Yeah, and look, Conor Cunningham's been around a long time, and he's been one of those players for Corofin, and it's like every team is crying out for that player that will give you a guaranteed a 7 out of 10 every game. That can control the game, from there, that can push on. He seems to be very good at that, and he's a very consistent player. And then that consistent player can always let other players, like your Dylan McHughes and your other maybe star players, to kind of push on and let them kind of do the to bring them over the line. But definitely, I've been really impressed with him, and not only this year, with all due respect for him, I'm sure he'd like to say himself that he's been playing like this for the last few years. And he's been kind of, around the setup a long time now, and I'm sure if there was a leadership group, I'm sure that he'd be close to the top of it, over the last few years. So definitely one of their consistent players that are driving on that team.
Donal, I was listening to Kevin Johnson's interview after the game. He was talking about Kieran Brady missing out on the starting 15. Kieran Brady, a player who's on the Galway senior football panel this year.
Yeah, it's an indication, Paul, of the quality. I thought Paddy Egan had a fantastic game the last day.
Particularly on John Mayer too.
Yeah, we had Paddy with the 20s there a couple of years ago, and first time I seen him was playing with Jarlath's, and was very impressed with him. And when he came into us. To be honest, I didn't see him starting or progressing as quickly as he did, and he did to start in midfield. And
What's progressed
obviously,
the most for him, do you think?
um, I suppose he has to get used to the physicality of it first of all, and he has that. But he's so elusive. You know what I mean? He's the modern day, similar to a Sam O'Neill or these guys, the kind of modern day um, midfielders that that have legs and that can use the ball obviously and have end up in positions where they're going to trouble teams and are defensively clued in as well. So you know what I mean. He had a great game, and Paddy gets involved as well. You know what I mean. He goes up. He seems to come out with the ball a lot when he shouldn't. At times, and he's I thought he played very, very well, especially on a John Marrow, who's, in his prime at the minute. His form is fantastic at the minute. So he's definitely one from a Galway perspective that we'll hopefully mind and look to. I suppose Park will probably hopefully be bringing him. Sure, he's in there already, sure, but hopefully in the next couple of years that he'll get more game time and stuff like that. But I thought Paddy played well, and Dylan McHugh, as Sean said, I thought was very obviously Sicey is the one who controlled the game and the tempo of the game, and his coaching on the pitch which really fascinates me. That he's any manager will tell you, if you have a coach like Sicey on a team, that's what you want. You know what I mean? Guy, telling guys where to go and the respect that guy has. Obviously, Sicey has that respect built up over the years, but that is fantastic. I'm sure Kevin is delighted with the likes of that and kicking his frees as well and influencing the game like he does. So look, there's you could be talking about them all day, but definitely Mike Cullen will be up against it the next day because they seem to be again with the quick turnaround. It's 2 weeks with the injuries that Mike Cullen have as well, or seem to have a Cookie going off and Dizzy as well. Probably struggling going into the game, probably by all accounts, and then obviously leaving early. So look, it'll be fascinating, but it's very difficult to see beyond Corofin from the last day. But in saying that, there is a lot of quality in that Mike Cullen team. So. And Corofin will know that, and they'll come with a lot to test them. I'd say.
It was their ability to Donal on Sunday to get the right players on the ball at the right time, particularly even Dylan Canny. They seemed at one stage in the first half he put his hand up and he knew the space was there, and the ability just to switch that instantly.
Yeah, forgot about Dylan. He had a fantastic game, didn't he? Forgot to mention. Yeah, he's definitely one. Jason Leonard didn't play as well, but they, the balance that they have, I think, is underestimated. With between the forwards, they're attacking guys, and you know what I mean. When you
I mean,
have
Leonard and Canny are two players that were without last year.
exactly forward wise, I think they're stronger this year. You know what I mean. And Corofin or Mike Cullen, forwards wise, with the injuries might be, I don't know, struggling a little bit that way. I don't know if they have the replacements of the quality that that the Desi's and the Cookies and these guys. So, that's it, it's impossible, I suppose, to look beyond Corofin because of that. They seem to be, and you have Dara Silke, we haven't mentioned, who is one of the most talented footballers probably in Galway to watch as well. And then you have a Sicey coming out, and you have runners then from the back, and Paddy Egan maybe coming through, or you have Conor Cunningham bombing through and stuff like that, or Malloy, these guys. So, the balance wise with Corofin is very good, and defensively, obviously with Liam and Conal is back there as well, who are very defense minded as well as going forward. So, look, there's a great balance to the team at the minute. We're talking them up now. That Kevin Johnson will be delighted that we're talking them up now. But I think it's difficult not to because
Yeah,
of what we've seen the last day and what we've seen over the last few years. You know what I mean? Bar a year or two where they kind of were rebuilding a little bit in, but you know what I mean? Getting younger guys in. But it was nice to see younger guys, the Patrick Egan's, the Brian Coggers, guys we had at 20s level coming through, Jack McCabe as well. Like, you know what I mean? Quality guy, good guys, like, you know what I mean? Good footballers. And, with that culture, I think that's an important word that Sean mentioned earlier on. Every team is looking for a good culture, and the culture down there is fantastic, and it's something that every team looks for in some form or other. But they definitely have it down there at the minute, for years, anyways.
Sean, Donal mentioned there that they're obviously his favourites going into the county final, and rightly so, favourites heading into this county final.
Corofin. Um, So yeah, look, they've beaten every team, and you'd say comfortably enough. They've timed their run well. Um, again, people are probably looking at this Salt Hill game as, is this the game now? Their team are going to kind of put it up to Corofin. So they deserve the favourites tag. I'm sure Mike Cullen, will be delighted possibly to come in as the underdog. Only they're not going to make up the numbers. I'm sure they'll want to try to get some of those players back now on the field. But they have a strong squad too, and they've been beating teams comfortably enough too. After their first probably their 1 point win against Dunmore in their first round, where Dunmore probably feel very unlucky that they didn't beat them. They've been while not shooting out the lights, they've been still kind of winning games by 3-4 points, some by more. So again, Corofin will be favourites after the last day, but I'm sure Mike Cullen, will want to come in the long grass now and win another county championship. And again, they're no strangers to the last 4 or 5 years. How many? What's this? Their fourth or their third county final. So I'm sure they're really excited about getting a chance to take on Corofin. And it'll be very interesting now in 2 weeks' time, because realistically, and look, Donal's more experienced as a manager than I do. The next 2 weeks will be about getting bodies right for both teams. Will be about maybe tweaking a few little things, but they're not going to change much. Both teams, they're not going to look at and change training sessions. They'll probably get 2-3 tough training sessions, even if and the big thing will be getting the matchups right and who's going to pick up who. You have I was listening to Sean Kelly after the game the last day. And he's getting more confidence in his play now, and he was delighted to get another game under the belt, and other players coming through.
Best we've seen him all year, really, on
Exactly.
Sunday.
So that game is going to be huge for him. And look, Sean Kelly fully fit, the damage that he can do, and what he even adds. Sean Kelly's been in the last few years, not only for Galway, but really pushes on Mike Cullen, and him getting back to form could be perfectly timed. And the next 2 weeks now will be getting the bodies right, getting the team right. Not changing too much, because at the end of the day, both teams have been doing something right if they're getting to a county final. So it'll be about tweaking a few things, getting the matchups right, and it'll be very interesting now. But you have to say Corofin, based on this year's performance, will be favourites. But I wouldn't count out Mike Cullen.
Donal, if we look at the second semi-final, Mike Cullen 110, Jim Stairs 10 points. This was a really enjoyable game of football, I must say.
Oh, definitely. Compared to the first one, Mike Cullen got over the line, I suppose, and they'll be delighted with that. I think Tuam probably would be disappointed. Kind of faded a little bit.
Did they kick it away when they had
best-
those 5 opportunities in a row?
the good few wides, exactly. I think the 2 points, I'm not sure people might agree with this, the 2 points that Desi got, the 2 frees before half time were big scores, I thought, for Mike Cullen, because Tuam probably played better in the first half than Mike Cullen overall. They were 6-4, and then all of a sudden went in 6-6. I know the breed was there and all that, but if they went in 6-4, or even a 6-5, maybe it might have knocked the stuffing out of Mike Cullen a little bit. But it was there for Tuam, I thought. They did have wides. There was times when they didn't drive on, and Mike Cullen did. And Mike Cullen, just looking forward to the match again, will probably need to come with a bit more energy than they did the last day. Obviously, against Corofin, that's if they have any chance or want to beat Corofin, they'll have to go at them, with Sean Kelly driving on, with Winnie driving on, and these guys, and use their pace, and Gallagher's and these guys buzzing around. You know what I mean? They have to get that buzz back that they had there a couple of years ago, and to go on the front foot. I think if they've, that's the best way you can beat Corofin, to really up the tempo, up the pace, as Mike Cullen can do. Haven't been probably doing it the last two in on again. There was a few bursts, I thought, the last day when they were under pressure, and it was enough to get them over the line. But the next day they'll probably have to sustain that a little bit more and get their runners on the ball, and you know what I mean, and mix it up between, you know, getting balls in, obviously if Desi is there, and running it, you know, to bring that energy, because I don't think if the game is kind of a little bit slower, I think might suit Corofin. I think the higher tempo pace might suit the lineup, like Sean and Paul and these guys that can off the shoulder run and the stuff, and you know, I think that's their strength. That's what's got them where they are. The last, and so they need a big performance like that probably. With the energy we speaking about there, you know, to get over the line. But look, at Tuam will have regrets, I imagine. They did have, I'm not sure how many wides they had, but they had 3 or 4 there, and Jamie even at the end dropped one in, and you know what I mean, there was a bit going on there. But look at you know, Mike Cullen probably were the better team on the day, but without shooting the lights out, I suppose, you know.
I think the timing of the goal also, you know, and
Yeah.
it's one of those in a game like that, a goal is just so it's massive for a team. And you know, the timing of it, even sometimes a goal is there's certain times in a game that it's, you know, perfect to get that goal, and just, you know, to kept Mike Cullen in front for the coming down the stretch, and they just couldn't seem to get it back. And again, as Donal was saying there, I'm sure Tuam will be looking back on that. If they look back at the video, I don't know if they'll have the heart to look back on it just yet, but when they look back, you know, the chances were there. But all you can do is beat what's in front of you, and without shooting up the lights, I'm sure Mike Cullen will just be happy now to get to the county final, regroup, and see what they can, the challenge they can sum up for Corofin.
In particular too, Sean, when they kept out so many goal opportunities before that, it really felt like Tuam were defending well, and I suppose not letting Mike Cullen get these goal chances, and even like it looked like they were nearly going to swarm Liam Mulcahy, but somehow he put the ball in the net.
Yeah, exactly. And like it's one of those goals too that you're almost like you can almost see Tuam, if it was stopped, that the lifter would give them, and actually just push down the, you know, the final lap. But again, you know, the goal getting in had the opposite effect for Mike Cullen, and they could just keep in front. And you know, keep a somewhat control, not as much control probably as Corofin would, but again, they could just keep that control for the rest of the game, and just you know, get to the final. And I'm sure they're delighted. Definitely stuff to probably work on. But yeah, I'm sure they're looking forward to the challenge Corofin are going to give them.
On Mike Cullen, Donald is the most impressive thing. It's nearly been a trade in this year, but they just seem to be finding a way every time.
Yeah, I absolutely. Ben, and no more than Corofin. If they're not at their best, people are talking about them, and it seemed like that the last day with Corofin, that there's a little bit of chat about, probably saw, but that seemed to be that was in there, the way they were tackling and the way the energy that it brought to the game. You know, there was people were probably expecting an upset maybe, or something like that, or you know, that could have seeped in. But definitely Mike Cullen haven't been shooting the lights out, as we said. And you know, look at it's a once-off game now, and you know, the gloves are off, shall we say. So it will be interesting. It'll take on a life of its own. But again, as I said, I think Mike Cullen would have to get their running game going again. They have to get that energy from not ones and twos, in the threes, fours, and fives. Obviously, with Sean seem to be back to his best, you know, coming from deep the last day. I think that will be obviously important, but not just Sean, because you know, they'll have guys on Sean and they'll try and stop him and stuff like that. You know, it wasn't all about Sean Kelly when they're winning county titles. There's other guys too. You know, if Claffey didn't start the last day, he's definitely one that can penetrate from wing back. You know what I mean? Obviously, Gallagher is, you know, does what he does. You know, David Wind and controlling as well when he has to. So look at there, you know what I mean? I think a high tempo game would suit them. Maybe more if they can just get at Corofin and stay in the game, and then you never know when you're going down the stretch. But definitely they have, you know, they have the talent and the guns if they're all okay, and they can afford probably to be losing two or three guys with injuries, or even, you know, niggles and stuff like that. You need to be right now in 2 weeks' time, so they'll be hoping for that, and I hope they are, and that we get a good game, because it'd be nice to get a good county final. You know, it would be good. You know what I mean? It'd be good for, especially with Galway getting to All Ireland senior finals the last couple of years and stuff like that. So it'd be good. It'd be nice to get a good final, you know.
Donal, on that, the people often when they see club championships now, they'll talk about lads who should be called in, who is maybe that club player that should be brought in. But Conor Corcoran this year, particularly in the back, is a player who's been really impressive all throughout Mike Cullen's campaign.
Yeah, we've had Connor with 20. I know for a fact the podcast him in there a couple of years ago, and he was going traveling and stuff. Um, so I'm not sure what stage Connor's at. Is I think he could probably be finished college at this stage, maybe. So definitely Connor. Yeah, he's definitely one. Or I had a conversation with him before, so he might again if circumstances have changed and stuff like that. But he's definitely one that he has that tenacity, that kind of. He's your out and out kind of man marker guys. You absolutely shut down Connor as your man. You know what I mean? I'm sure he'll be man marking somebody, maybe a Gary Sykes or somebody like that. He might be following him out the gate or wherever until next day, something like that. But Connor is definitely and a good footballer and an intelligent footballer as well. So he's definitely one with County. For us for 21s, he was fantastic. He'd always be one of the main guys, to mark a guy or what I mean, to close a guy down. And it's hard to get them nowadays because especially the way the system is and the way Gaelic football is, you don't necessarily have to be that maybe, I suppose defensively minded because there's a lot of help around for you. So, footballers and attacking footballers, probably getting away with a lot as regards. I know the new rules are coming and stuff, and they're trying to change that to more one-on-one battles and stuff. But no, Connor is definitely one. Obviously, that the guys that are in and around it, the younger guys, the Paddy Eakins and these guys are in and around it at the minute. So if Connor was interested, I'm sure Pádraig could definitely he would be one to bolster. And already, with Johnny and Jack there and Fitzy, and then he would bolster that full back line definitely and be an option that you could trust. He's a guy you can trust because he's an out and out defender. So yeah, definitely. Connor is one
I
that
think
would help by heart.
they'll be relying a lot, maybe on the older lads. And I don't know if they'd like me calling them older, but in the midst, they're probably younger than me. But you have your own Gallagher's, your Johnny Maloney's, even Dave Wynn also. Those players, I think, if they're going to do damage and if they're going to beat Corofin, I think they're going to have to break lines. They're going to kind of tuck that ball in, win a free, break a line, continue the run. It's going to be hard runs that are going to beat Corofin, because if you're not doing those hard runs and you're not going to win those frees and you're not going to gain those yards against Corofin, put them on the back foot. If you're going to let them kind of control the way they play, I think Mike Cullen is going to be in trouble. So that's why those probably attributes suit those players, as well as the likes of Sean Kelly. So they're really going to have to, and with Mark McHugh involved, I'm sure there's fitness, won't be an issue. By all accounts, they've been running hard all year.
It is a thing too, though. Sorry, Sean, to interrupt there, but if Mike Cullen can get their full 15 on the pitch, which is something they haven't been able to do this year, there's always been one or two injured, but if they can get a full 15 on this pitch, like that is quite a good 15, and I mean a pretty good starting 15.
But even the size of them too,
Yeah.
I mentioned Johnny Maloney, like Peter Cook, and these are not just big lads. Sometimes you get a big lad and they're not as mobile. They're mobile. Like when you see Peter Cook running at you and those strides he has, and he can put the ball over from 35 yards. If you have 4 or 5 of those players
Yeah,
break,
like you could have Cook, Clark, Davern, and McLaughlin across the middle.
yeah, it's a serious, and like those lads that have pace, power, even if they go onto the tackle, they don't lose it either. They can recycle. They're strong enough to hold it, recycle, and let someone else. And if you keep trying to break those lines, and I think that's what you're going to need, to break Corofin down. And I do think, the first goal, and I feel there is going to be a goal. It's going to be huge. And if Mike Cullen can get that goal and give them that lift, and even just kind of even give them the confidence, and maybe put Corofin under a bit of pressure, because I don't really think Corofin have been under too much pressure this year. And it seems to be Corofin scoring those important goals. I think if Mike Cullen can break those lines, get a goal early, I think that's what that will give them a good chance to get that county medal for 2024.
It's a pretty shot too, Sean, isn't it? Like even we're talking up Corofin. here, and like everyone else is going to in the county too, because after the performance they give, like I was even laughing when I got one of the questions in from the podcast this week. Someone sent in, should Corofin be split in two? Like it was just
Yeah.
like all this talk is going to be how good Corofin and being and Mike Cullen are coming in. It's a perfect position.
Yeah, and again, the opposite talk, maybe in the Mike Cullen camp they'd be saying, are they the same Corofin team of 5 years ago? Corofin will want to prove that that they're better, but the Mike Cullen will want to say, have they been really shooting out the lights, or has it been the opposition that hasn't really shown? And are Mike Cullen the team now to kind of show how good they are and to put Corofin under pressure? And I think the opposite, maybe it's the opposition that have had a lot to do with Corofin also this year. And that they haven't put the pressure on. And if Mike Cullen get closer to that starting 15, or they're the best 15 onto the pitch, I'm sure they'd be confident to give Corofin a good rattle. And if you did look at the two squads and two available squads, and you had every player available, there isn't that much difference in terms of talent. And especially to think, I'd almost give more power. You look at experience and maybe control, but I think that Mike Cullen team has serious power too if they get some of those bigger lads. And some of the players, as we mentioned before, Sean Kelly getting that extra game time in his legs, Peter Cook being back, they get close to their starting 15, they'll be itching to show what they're about. And this is really the one I think they want. They have the county medals, but the only county medal that they don't have is one where they've bet Corofin in a county final. So I think that's an extra bit of spice added, and I'm sure they're going to be looking forward to 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I look at the two best squads are definitely in the final. So there'll be very little between them. You know what I mean? We're analysing now or looking forward now. After a very, very good performance by Corofin and an okay performance by Mike Cullen. So that'll all go out the window in 2 weeks' time. You know what I mean? And so the game will take on a life of itself, and the energy levels that Corofin had the last day, they might be a little bit dropped the next day, and Mike Cullen's energy levels might be a little bit up on the Tuam game. So look at the variables like that. You know what I mean? That I suppose managements will try and get right between now and then. So look at it. It'll be fascinating because definitely the styles sometimes, you know what I mean, clash a little bit with the kind of running game of Mike Cullen. When they use it well, is very difficult to stop. So if they could get that going, and you would know where to take. You know what I mean? We mentioned the Corofin forwards there with two boys, but Jason back and Kenny back as well. So there's a lot more power, scoring power probably in the Corofin forward line maybe this year. Not putting the kibosh on them, but they're probably a little bit more dangerous. So, look, it's fascinating. The more you talk about it, you kind of wishing it to come around quicker. But it'll definitely be worth a watch. Hopefully now in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, that final Sunday week, it's between Corofin and Mike Cullen, and it's going to be in Tuam Stadium because obviously lights being upgraded in Pierce Stadium at the minute. Donal, just with your managerial hat on, like Mike Cullen now, there's going to be big questions of who's fit, who's not. As manager, when it comes to a county final, is this a game where you might risk one or two players, or what do you think the Mike Cullen management to be thinking ahead of this one?
I look at you'd need all the information before you'd be speculating on ifs, buts, and maybes. Look at I suppose the common thing would be if they're fit enough to start, or you know what I mean, depending on the injury, do you start them, you know what I mean, with the fear of them getting injured and having to take them off, or leave them off, and then when they come on, they could go, you know what I mean? There's a lot of variables there depending on the injuries, or if it's a knock or soft tissue or whatever, So look, there's a lot there. We don't need to be speculating about the injuries there. And there's decisions to be made, and I'm sure there will be decisions, but Desi probably Desi was a hamstring thing, wasn't it? Or was it the last couple of weeks? I'm not sure, but I think it was.
It's
that sort of stuff.
really Desi, Cook,
Yeah,
McLaughlin, Niall Walsh too, which is with a big threat inside too. And I
Yeah,
presume there's been something with Neil Mulcahy too, because he's a player who'd definitely be starting if he's fully fit.
yeah, exactly. So look at you don't know what's going on behind the scenes there. So I'm sure they'll, you know what I mean. We all know these players over the last few years. Aidan Claffey as well didn't start the last day, who would be, mainstay for them over the last couple of years. So he might be carrying something as well. So look at for energy wise, injuries, they don't help. And I think energy will be important. So look at them. I'm sure this they'll be pulling their hair out in the next couple of weeks and hoping that guys get up to full speed. You know what I mean? I think Sean mentioned it earlier about just mind and body between now and then. But you'd be worried about the hamstring stuff. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff, which can really hinder a guy even when he is playing or might start. Injuries like that sometimes hinder decision making on the pitch. You know what I mean? And they slow stuff down, and your decision making mightn't be as sharp. So look at all of that, and look at the Corofin. I'm sure probably have knocks as well. Maybe not as much. So look at it's there's calls to be made, and there's plenty of guys there with plenty of experience in my column back room, anyways, to make those calls. And you live and die by the sword. You win, everything's right. You lose, and
Yeah,
they'll be given out. Sure, that's the way it'll be.
it's going to be the big talking point heading into this one. And on the senior relegation final, Monavea 9 points, Carstran 5. Monavea Abbey retained their senior status for 2025. Carstran are relegated to intermediate football, which I'm sure it's been a tough week in Carstran for the supporters and the players to make the drop after being a senior club for quite a while. But Sean, from your own experience of coming up from intermediate to senior, when you get to this and you're only a year up, I'm sure for Monavea Abbey it's just pure relief to be a senior club for another year.
I thought you were going to say my experience from getting relegated in relegation, but um,
So that's
yeah,
what he meant, Sean. That's what he meant.
yeah. That's the little person underneath me there. But look, it's one of those. In a relegation, and I've been involved in them. It's a dogfight, and it's one of those games you go into that you're actually more nervous, and people kind of clamp up. And probably with Carol Strand, they probably they struggled during the year. They had some heavy losses, um, and they probably were looking at those relegation games as, can they change it? Can they turn the momentum? And it's not that easy just to turn momentum. And Monavea getting up last year, uh, you know, trying to stop to be that yo-yo team of going up and going down. You really want to establish yourself and give a chance to any young players coming through, to give them a few years at senior level. So look, I'm sure it'll be tough for Carol Strand. And you look at even in the intermediate, there's teams there that Aaron this year, I'm sure, are very disappointed to be in a relegation semi-final when they started the year looking at to be in a semi-final, final, to go up to get promoted, to go up to senior. So it's not a nice place to be. And there's always a bit of nervousness around those games. And it's hard to change that momentum from losing games. And when you get to a preliminary quarterfinal, if you lose, the season's over, you move on. But you're coming off a loss into a semi-final of a relegation. You're coming off another loss into a relegation final. It's a tough place to be, and those trainings on a Tuesday after a semi-final relegation, it's very hard to build that momentum. So look, I think maybe some people had Carol's fan almost to have them going down with the way they were performing this year, but 4 point loss. And I'm sure they went into that game hoping, because Monavea, had probably had a few decent performances up this year and probably disappointed in certain games, that they ended up in the relegation. So again, I'm sure it's going to be a real rebuild job for Carl Strand, and looking at the likes of Michaels now in a semi-final, trying to get it back straight up. It's not easy. It's not an easy place to come down to, and we've been relegated now a few years, and we're even getting past the quarter-final stage. So It's a tough place to be. And I always think, the year to get back up to senior is that first year you get relegated, to just try to get back up straight away, because intermediates, it's not an easy place to get out of. But I'm sure they're disappointed, but I'm sure they'll regroup from next year and see what they can improve.
Just on this too, Donal, for Castrand, the reason why they've went down is obviously because they haven't been able to put enough scores on the board. Like there's been games where they've scored 1-3, 5 points the last day. That's ultimately what's put them down. But that's probably to do with the players. They just didn't get on the pitch this year either.
Oh yeah, probably. I wouldn't be so doom and gloom about relegation and stuff like that, Paul, to be honest with you. Look, I'd see it as an opportunity, kind of a check on maybe the club and the coaching, and just kind of I suppose, to see what, where things went wrong, obviously, on a senior team. And the senior team, or the first team of any club, is very important, obviously,
Do you think
because
that's
that's
been good from a Spittle perspective?
how do you mean, as in playing
Like
in
obviously
intermediate?
there when you talk about a
Well,
club that sometimes it's
it is.
you can look at it and see.
Well, like, you have to have, in my opinion, like when things happen, you react to them. Yeah, but what's your mindset then? It has to be a growth one. It has to be kind of, okay, we have to grow from this. And Carl Strand should be the same way. You can be doom and gloom, and like, senior football isn't the be all and end all for most clubs. Like, we're a small club ourselves, for example. You know what I mean? To be up playing against Corofin or the Maigh guys, it's a pretty different standard. We have individual players who are of that standard, but we wouldn't have the panels to compete. And I'm sure Sean probably would say the same. You have to be realistic, and clubs going down to intermediate, it's an opportunity, to regroup, rebuild, look at the coaching, getting players through. The pathway that from clubs sometimes isn't there. You know what I mean? From maybe a junior A team or a junior B team to an intermediate team or a senior team and stuff like that. There's a lot that goes on in clubs, that, and when you hear around other clubs, that isn't that good. It's just the senior team is the number one team, and I wouldn't have that attitude at all. I think that to have two or three teams within a club is, I'd rather that than have one very, very good team and the rest kind of just, or one team below them maybe, or I don't know. But I think, look, for Carlos Strand, it's an opportunity as opposed to doom and gloom. They'll regroup. They're obviously a proud footballing club, and with lots of good players, and I assume a lot of good players coming through over the next few years. So look, it's an opportunity for them to get to regroup, get a bit of confidence, because I know from relegations and over the years, or even myself playing and stuff like that, as Sean mentioned there, it's not nice. But as I get older, you kind of appreciate that, if guys are out there playing and enjoying it, and that's the main thing. So it's an opportunity now, as opposed to, there's enough doom and gloom out there and guys giving out and all that sort of stuff. So it's an opportunity for Carlos Strand. I think Sean is right there, that the first year back, it can be, first year or two definitely, to, is I suppose, the best opportunity to get back up. But it's going to be very competitive now, though, down in intermediate.
Yeah,
I think,
years, isn't it?
I think one of the benefits probably, and look, it's made it harder, and it's made it harder for for teams to go up, but the 16 teams, I can see does benefit in terms of, instead of, for years by, you could be in the 19th or 20th best team and still be, you can maintain your senior status. In my eyes, probably, the older I get, I'd sooner would prefer to have, start the year with a chance, a real chance to, to win something. And, with the 16 teams, even look at the intermediate, there's teams like Clifton and Gabriel's, that finished top of their group. And then, in senior also, you have teams like Ard, or, are fighting to kind of make that little breakthrough into the maybe top five, type six teams. And most teams in a 16 team championship now, I'm sure they really start the year in a positive mind frame of, there's at least we can all get to a quarter final with the new system of three, only the bottom team getting the relegation, with third and second going prelims. You really do, it keeps your season alive, and you can see the benefit for probably. It really does give you that hope that if you get to a quarter final, anything is possible, and you get to a semi final. And you look at teams like Oranmore and intermediate, you got relegated in the league, and Glenamaddy, who we, both teams that we've bet, this year, and they're in the county semi-finals. So again, that's the kind of hope for all teams that they have at the start of
Sean,
the
I do have to ask you there at the start of my intermediate football championship power rankings, Micheál Brannocks were number
year.
one
So
on
we,
the.
we fell down fairly quickly there, thanks. But
But
yeah,
just
look,
on that, like, how do you reflect on the season? Because obviously there was a lot of expectation even from the league campaign and the squad you had availability this year.
look, we were not happy the way it. I think momentum. Caltra, who are going well and have a good team and very well set up, and maybe we kind of went in, half sleep, maybe thinking that we were the better team, and there's no easy game in intermediate, and Caltra, on that day just blew us out of the water, and we were 1-4 to 0 down after 7-8 minutes, and Caltra, they deserve to be where they are now. They've kind of really built on that momentum and been putting up big scores also. And then we were the opposite. We lost a bit of momentum there. Went into the Clonberne game, and probably a bit of nervousness because we didn't perform. Lost that game, and now we were hoping that we turned it around against Khartoum. Had a preliminary quarter final, didn't take our chances against Kilconnelly. So I'm sure a lot of the team talks after games are very similar. I'm sure, teams that don't take their chances. That's what we felt anyways, especially against Kilconnelly that day. So we're disappointed. There's some good things this year. Some new young players coming through, and that's really the older statesmen like myself. That's what you really want to see. You want to give younger lads a chance. And we had a good league campaign, but it just shows probably the way the league is now. A lot of teams have probably done well in the league that didn't do well in the league, sorry. They seem to be doing well at the latter stage of championship. So I don't know if that's something to look at. Maybe we're always trying to look at why and look for that little percent and for development and, as Donal said there, growth for next year. So look, we'll go again next year. We've some young lads coming through, and it's one of those things. Every January, every team's in the same boat, and won't be thinking too much yet about the running around on the January and February. But look, we'll come back, and hopefully next year we'll put in a good fight to get promoted and to an intermediate championship.
Donal, did you make the trip down to Spiddle for the penalty shootout on Saturday?
I did indeed. Long trip down, all right. A fantastic game, and the just on that, the intermediate championship is, and always was, I thought, a fantastic championship because you
Yeah,
never
it
knew.
just shows 4 new semi-finalists this year.
Yeah, even before that, I would have said that. You know what I mean? And the format is very good as well. It keeps teams alive for a little bit longer. You know what I mean? So look at any of the four. The thing is, there's three of that four that won't go up. So you put Carlos Ryan on top of that, and Micheál Brannocks and Spiegel that were probably up there in the top 3 or 4 at the start of the year. It's going to be very, very competitive next year, So the Glenamaddy were very good than that, and Clifton both. It was a topsy-turvy game. I suppose Clifton didn't play for a couple of weeks, 3 or 4 weeks beforehand, and probably
Yeah,
started
4 week
slowly.
break.
I think it was 10-3 half time or something like that. And they got a goal then and kind of kept them in it, and Glenamaddy got a penalty then and missed it, and missed a kind of an easy enough free after that, and a 45 after that, and just kind of Clifton stuck in it, and Jerry Gibbons kicked a fantastic free to level it at the end, and they took over Clifton the first half of extra time and went, I think, 3 up, and just a total change in the second half. Glenamaddy took over and came back and drew it, and obviously went to penalties, and your old buddy John O'Brien missed the penalty. The poor Sean missed it. He was playing a fantastic game. John, who had won the team on the panel with Sean in 2007 when they won the minor, he was playing forward for Clifton and was very good and very dangerous all day. But Rory King had a great game for Clifton. Conor Raff, I thought, had a fantastic game. Absolutely.
It seemed like Ryan Duffy was. It was
and,
just.
and sorry, Duffy as well. Obviously, the score
Yeah,
was
he kicked 12.
Yeah, did he kick 12?
Yeah,
He
12.
was dangerous, but they snuffed him out as best they could. But a lot of those are frees now as well, but good frees. You know what I mean? A lot of them were difficult enough ones and at vital stages as well. But I thought Conor Raftery he was immense all through, and he kind of picked up an injury, but with typical Conor, like, he wouldn't even know. He just kept plugging away. And Luke Divley midfield was good. Mark Darger for Glenamaddy as well, I thought. And Owen Geraghty was very good as well. He was playing full back line for most of the day. But no, Glenamaddy are, the typical kind of, I watched them over the years now, just watching the guys for 20s and stuff like that. They're just kind of a typical intermediate team, never say die. You know what I mean? If you beat them, you know you're in a game. But they've had a good year, and delighted for them. But a lot of those guys would have worked with a few.
Particularly after losing the last two quarterfinals after
Two,
extra
yeah,
time.
2 or 3. Somebody said that at the game. Yeah, I didn't know that, but somebody mentioned that was a 2 or 3 quarterfinals.
Yeah,
to
last
get
2
past.
years extra time beating them both.
That's
Yeah, it would
right.
have
Yeah.
been taking penalty loss on top of that. So
Yeah. So look at they deserve their little bit of luck. But in saying that, people would probably have them, fourth in a 4-horse race now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean. At Caltra, I've seen Caltra once or twice this year who are very good. I've seen them against you guys, Sean, as well at the start, and they're very impressive that day now.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I thought, but I wouldn't have much between. I suppose the two, the Ormore and Michael, would probably be, the favourites at this stage. I haven't actually seen Ormore play, but by all accounts, they're have a good young team coming through and stuff. I'm not sure if the hurling guys came back. There was chat of that as well.
I think
But
that
yeah,
I don't, from what I hear, that they didn't use much of the 19s now, and they're in the county finals tomorrow night against
yeah,
Dunmore. So
that's right.
momentum is a funny thing, and it gives a lot of the team when you see a young team like that,
Yeah,
going well in the club, like even for ourselves, our under 15s this year winning the Féile,
yeah.
even something like that. And I know they're only under 15, but it does give a lift to
Boost,
the
yeah,
older
yeah,
lads, and
absolutely.
with the hope of that you can kind of build that, and you just
They're in the
want
17s final as well. I was only alluding to 17s and 19s final.
And 19.
they're
A
coming.
like is
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah,
I played in the minor hurling final at the weekend. They're beaten by
Yeah,
Athenry, well,
yeah, and look, you have Dormore, and I know Donal mentioned it there. Where teams like ourselves and any kind of probably rural team, would struggle is if you lose that, 2, 3, 4 players, you just don't have the players maybe to replace them, as easy as or as much as the likes of Ormore and even your Corofins that have these big picks now. And look, and I'm not trying to take anything away from them, because you have to have the setup for those players to thrive in. But it does seem like a numbers game now in terms of Ormore seem to be coming strong, possibly after a few years not being happy of how things were going. But now definitely they seem to be building momentum, and and even Michael's too. They've been competing at a lot of these teams intermediate now have been competing in A level, under 19s, under 17s. So doesn't necessarily mean a lot of probably people who are looking at Clare Galway the last few years, the amount they won in A level, and it probably hasn't materialized as quick as they would have wanted at senior. So it doesn't necessarily always mean, but it gives you a great chance, and it's especially in intermediate to try to get through that and get to senior status. So, but look, all the teams will be saying the same. They're in a semi-final in intermediate. It's 60 minutes, and
Yeah.
it's a hard one to predict sometimes. But and Michael's Ormore, that's where the momentum changed this year for Ormore. I think that first game against Michael's, and they've been putting up big scores too.
yeah. I was just about to say, like, Ardmore kicked. They didn't get off to the best start against Brendan's, where Brendan's raced into a lead, but to kick 117 in October, like that has to jump out at you straight away.
Serious, and I think I was speaking to someone that from Michael's in the first game, and what he mentioned in that first game, he just what Michael's kind of expect is to go, toe to toe, and that they're footballing and they're young lads and their legs, but when they kept going toe to toe, or more kept coming back, and that seems to be kind of real into their play now, putting up these big scores and saying, look, we're going to score more than you. Now, it's sometimes later on in the season you get to, and I'm sure there's going to be, if they get to between the next two games, You're not going to possibly score 18, 19 scores in a semi-final and a final of a county because more things come in, a bit of nerves. So they're going to probably have to get the knack of how to win tight games and if low scoring games, it's going to be interesting. And Michael's going to change the setup. Will they go the same way they went the first day? They were probably surprised, I would have imagined, that first round championship. So it's going to be interesting now to see how both teams approach this game.
I know more we were talking about them there too, but Donal, Michael's like we're all wondering where they were, but they're really starting to time their run now. Really impressive at the weekend, 3-14 to 5-point winners over St. Gabriel's. Conor Gallagher really good in midfield for them with 2 goals, but like they really did look impressive, and I suppose that's probably been the performances they've been trying to go after for the last few weeks.
Yeah, that'll definitely give them confidence. They had a good league. They were in Division One of the league, weren't they? And
Got to the semi-final, yeah.
competed very well there. So that would have given them confidence, I suppose, because they would have been a low ebb probably. And maybe a little bit nervous going into the Division One league. It's probably the best thing for them. So that gave them probably the platform to give them the confidence back, or to revigorate them a small bit maybe at the start of the year, because and obviously then being favourites on probably the strength of that and been relegated last year. So look, they'll be as Sean mentioned earlier, they'll be looking to come back kind of as quick as they can, obviously this year. So it'll be interesting now, the next day how it's going, as Sean mentioned there, how it's going to transpire, because I'd imagine that Michaels will want to slow things down and keep them at arm's length a little bit, and shut up shop a little bit now with the big scores that have been going up. So look at Michaels are probably favourites going into this, definitely, because of the experience that they had. A lot of those guys would have played senior football for the last few years, and the bit between the teeth now probably, with the finishing line just around the corner. So, but it'll be interesting. And just to mention to Jerry Fahey, who's on the road a long time, Jerry's obviously doing a good bit of work with them and back in with them. So because they won't want from trying anyways from Jerry. But look, it'll be an interesting game, and the Caltra Glenamaddy game as well, because
On
both teams
Caltra, Donal, obviously you worked with Alan Naughton at minor level, but like I think he's one of the top scorers this year in the Intermediate Football Championship. He was tightly marked too against Kilconnelly, but still grabbed 5 points. And even Sean Kane on the edge of square, he grabbed 2-1. But Alan Naughton is a player who's really took this role as Caltra's main man on this year throughout the championship.
Yeah, Alan is definitely a talent and always was. Very, very fine footballer, and very, very talented footballer, left-footed, obviously with that little bit of guile that the left-footers would have. He's played well. Kind of surprised that he got as much room. Maybe he got it against you guys, Sean, that day.
Yeah, he
And
scored
every
7 for
yeah,
play against us. I was impressed.
yeah, but it was one of those games where it doesn't matter who you put on him, the ball just came in, and you have some of those,
Look,
I suppose, games as a forward. But look at Alan will get more attention now as you put up the scores. You'll get more attention, and he'll get more attention obviously the next day now from the Michaels guys. Subsequently, if they get through, obviously, and the next day as well, or from the Glenamaddy guys, they'll have a plan. Don't worry. And Glenamaddy are very physical now as well. And good tacklers, strong on the tackle. So look, it'll be an interesting one there. But I would probably think Caltra will probably come through that. I've seen both teams. Been very impressed with Glenamaddy. You know what I mean? Especially the last day, the way they kind of stayed in the game when it was probably gone from them at one stage. After losing the lead, and really stuck at it. So but it would be probably Caltra for me. Toss of a coin, the other one, but maybe Michaels. Maybe, I'm not sure.
Are you saying, Donal, you expect Michaels to win this intermediate title?
I would, again, just based on experience and playing Division One football, you know what I mean, and renewed, I suppose, confidence after a heavy win the last day. But again, our more are as good as them. You know what I mean? It would be, I suppose, the age level of Ormore, it would be a perfect time to get up now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This year, or in the next year or two. But this year obviously would be a great year for them to get up, and with the talent that they have probably coming through with those underage teams that we mentioned there, 19s is a good level because that's, you're 18. A lot of guys are 18 years of age, 18, 19, that are perfect age. So that would be, I suppose, on the back of their minds, maybe to try and make a push. Maybe that's what they've been chatting about the last year or two. I don't know, I'm not sure, but definitely the age profile or more, it would suit them probably to get up this year. But sure, look at Michael's have a bit to say on that. But look, we'll see. It'll be interesting.
Who do you expect to win it, Sean?
I think it's going to be a Michaels and Caltra final. And Michaels to come on out on top of that. But it's again, it's one of those, we could be we could be very embarrassed now after this weekend, and could have a Glenamaddy and or more final just as easy. But I think just with the performance the last day, I think that's what, was the big score. And look, I know the opposition probably will be at a higher level now again. But I think that will give the confidence to Michael's lads, to get, that momentum and also, more and more surprise them at the start of the year. So they'll be going in with their eyes wide open for this one. And then I just think Caltra probably have that bit extra. Will find those scores. One thing I was kind of impressed with Caltra against us in the first round, just they picked up scores, and not just from Al Nafton was their focal, but they had a good forward line that were able to open us up, and I think just their forward line will have a bit more than Glenamaddy's, and I think that'll bring them to the final. And then just Michael's to have that bit more, maybe a bit more experience, and to bring them back up to senior.
Sean, a team that bet you this year, Kilcarn, they defeated Williamstown to relegate them to junior football too, as well at the weekend.
Yeah, yeah. Look, and you can see how tight that is from a team that bet us into a relegation final. And it's the fine margins, especially down in intermediate. And if you want to talk about fine margins, Williamstown only lost it by a point to Arran in the semi-finals. So again, I'm sure Clonberne would have been disappointed with the way the Caltra game went. And it was it's just the way probably the new rules are that if there's the same team or three teams on the same points, that it's only their goal difference that match up. So
Were they blaming it on you a small bit for not beating Corofin by enough?
but we were junior. I don't think even I think we bet them we were up by 6, and then
Yeah.
Corofin got the last point, which basically Corofin lost by 5, which kept them into the championship and put Clonberne down. So it's and there's a lot of kind of, even during the game, you're not sure exactly. You go in with the knowing exactly what you have to do. But after we lost to Clonberne, it was kind of heads were down, and we thought we were going to have to beat Cartoon by 5, but then we knew with the new rules that we still had our fate in our own hands by just beating Cartoon. So there's a lot, like, it can swing around very easily. And look, it's not an easy place to be, but I'm sure Clonberne will be delighted now, get a chance to regroup for next year, and they want to be challenging on the other side of intermediate rather than being in relegation battles. So again, it'll be interesting now in the next 2 weeks who goes up. And we know Carlisle are down, yeah, and even Killererin and the junior championship, there's 4 teams still from what I gather. I think the winner of Killererin and Carrow doesn't necessarily go up.
No,
They've
it's
junior. I was only learning about that the last day. So it's even junior, it's a hard slog to get back up to intermediate the way it is now. You thought the old system in the county final, Carrow against Killererin, and the winner of that would have gone up, but it doesn't seem to be that case now. So look, it's going to be interesting in a few weeks.
Yes, Killearn and Carrow, they play in the regular junior football final. The winner of that goes and represents Galway and Connacht.
Yeah.
But the winners of the junior 2 between Sawtill and Tuam play the winners of Carrow and Killearn in the junior football county final. Now, I know that's a bit confusing, but that's
Yeah.
what the system is at the minute, and the winners of that then go up. But Donal, I suppose for the junior, for Carrow, it was obviously a relief to get West Border title at the weekend, just considering everything that's went on the last 2 years from going to senior to junior, and even for Killearn to win the Northboard title, like two teams that used to be, I suppose, a big powerhouse of Go, even senior football, but just to get titles
Mhm.
was a big achievement for them.
They would have played county finals against each other at that time. It was one in '97, I think, and maybe another one was the one after that even. But yeah, look at Carrow are very strong. They got caught how they got caught last year. I'm not sure, but they have a lot of underage guys. They have 3 or 4 guys over the last couple of years on minor panels and in and around Galway minor panels and stuff like that. So the underage structure there, they won the under 17 B there the last day county final against Maigh, I think it was, and their under 19s were just beaten there by Michaels, but again would be as good in the under 19s.
Yeah, and they had a very good junior A team last year too as well.
And they would exactly like they're an intermediate team at least, and the Carrow would be looking probably. I'm sure the 4 to 5 year plan would be up senior in the next 4 to 5 years. And look, at easy to talk about it and easily said than done, but they've put a lot of work over the last that I've noticed over the last 7, 8 years into underage structure. They're back there, and just on that, I mean the drop to junior, possibly, it's at the time probably seemed like the end of the world, but you know what I mean. It gives them an opportunity to bed in younger guys to play at a level maybe a little bit below and build their confidence with the eye of getting up this year. I would imagine. I probably wouldn't see them have they should probably get up this year, or are strong enough definitely panel wise to get up this year, and compete at intermediate for a couple of years, maybe bed them in again, and then probably push on to senior. Maybe that's, I'm sure, what the plan is. You know what I
They are
mean?
really a team, Donal, if they beat Killearn in this, that like you wouldn't be surprised at all if they were going to run in Connacht.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I know they're very strong, Paul. They're very strong. You know what I mean. They have a mixture of older guys and new guys coming on as well on the scene. So yeah, no, they're too strong probably for junior. Now look at Killearn. I'm not sure they'll have something to say about that now as well. I know Tom Hughes is over them down in Killearn, and with Liam Boyle and Michael Boyle is around there, and Ian Donoghue and guys. They've got good guys as well. So they've a little bit of work to do against Killearn are not going to lie down. But over the next couple of years, they'd hope to get out of junior and up to intermediate and bed in these young guys that are coming through. So but a lot of work done and I suppose a lot of work to do over the next few years back there. Whether they get up this year or the next year or two, you know what I mean. That's obviously the goal. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it goes.
It does make this battle, Sean, now interesting for the team that comes up to intermediate football for next year.
It does, yeah, because it'll be, regardless of what team comes up now, there's going to be another strong team coming from junior,
Yeah.
Come down. There's going to be teams that weren't happy with the performances this year. There's going to be 2025 definitely going to be an interesting year in intermediate. But it's a long slog to that, junior, when you think of they're going to have to win 3 finals now to get, promoted to intermediate essentially. So, but again, momentum is a funny thing. I know they wouldn't have wanted to go down junior now, but a lot of those lads will, cherish, winning a cup now, having a chance to win a county, and then even a chance to go on a run in Connacht All Ireland series. It's a bit of a novelty, to be honest, for a lot of clubs that have been around, and that's not necessarily, look, no team aims to go to get demoted, but if you get, it's like a reset sometimes, and it can give you a push of, giving, as Don said, younger lads a chance. But also, we all grow up wanting to win, cups with our club, and of course we want to do it at the highest level. But I'm sure, that cup with Carrow winning the last day, meant a lot to them, and they'll want to push on, especially after a few tough years, back to back relegations. So. Um, Again, it will be interesting, but Killearn are going to be saying the same thing. That's probably, it's been competitive in the last few years because of the structure of 2 teams getting relegated over the last few years. So they have been, probably strong teams over the last 3 years. getting relegated. And with the one team system getting relegated, possibly it can find teams get found out more if you're not at that level. But especially over the last few years, I think the standard has there have been good teams, and anything can happen in a relegation battle. So with the system now, with one team going down, I'm sure teams will kind of won't want to be that team. But look, I'm sure Carrow will be looking to build on this momentum. But I'm sure Kildare are going to have something to say about that.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting final there between those two clubs. In the junior football final, and the winner that'll obviously represent Galway in Connacht in the junior football championship. But that's all we do have time for on this evening's show. Thanks to Sean and Donal for coming on.